Hey everyone, Live Oak AV is now 25 years old, and to honor that, we get to speak with the owners and the co-founders, Jennifer and Dave. So we're sitting down today with them to get a look behind the curtain. And really, to kick things off, I'd love to just talk about how Live Oak AV got started and what was the spark that really ignited the company to come to life.
I'll let Dave start with this.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think it started, I worked for a couple of AV companies in Seattle, 2 years with PSAV, and then 2 years with AV Factory. And I think we just got to the point, we talked about it, that, we just felt like we could do a better job for our clients and for our employees as far as providing better customer service and quality of equipment. That's kind of what spurred us.
That's wonderful. And Jennifer, how did you get involved?
Well, to be fair to the other company's mission, they were both under a different ownership at the time. So not a reflection on the current companies. Well, we were married. We've been married maybe 2 years. And so Dave comes home one day and he's like, I have this idea. I'm like, okay, let's try it. In the beginning, Dave was really the face of the company. He was the service provider. He was the person people called. If it wasn't Dave at his event, then it wasn't Live Oak. A lot of what I was doing at the time was having a job that paid the rent and had health insurance. And so a lot of my role in the company was doing the invoicing, doing the accounting, doing all of that administrative stuff that I could do when I wasn't working. So... But yeah.
Supporting the family while we try and grow a business. So that's a lot what she.
That's so wonderful. Yeah, and your roles back in the day, how have those roles changed now? Talk to us a little bit about how you all split your time within the company, because you're both full-time owners and workers in the company now.
Yeah, that was a challenge. We've gone through many phases of the company, and where, it was her and I doing everything. And then we just sort of settled into what our specialties are, and more on the tech side of, setting up larger events. Jennifer pretty much handles everything else, and and the majority of the live stream also.
It was hard when we first started, simply because, I was doing other things. I had other jobs. And so while I was mostly dealing with the administration, I wasn't seeing the daily rhythm of things, or, how busy things were. So a lot of what I was doing was almost out of context, if you will. And this led to several spirited conversations about how things should be done, for both of us. And a lot of it was just because neither one of us had the full picture of what the other person was doing. When I came on full-time in 2014, even though we were busier, both of us being in the same company made it a lot easier, because now we both had the full context of what the other person was doing. And so that helped a lot with just misunderstandings and scheduling conflicts and this kind of stuff.
Fewer arguments.
Yeah, I know, where I was right and he wasn't.
Yeah.
We also learned when I came on full time is that both of us doing everything was not a good fit for our personalities. Like, in that context, as when we stepped on each other's toes quite a bit. And what we really were good at was more of a divide and conquer strategy. So Dave doing what he was good at, events, and then me stepping back and deferring to his expertise, which is not my natural state of being. And then me doing what I'm best at, which is a little more of the management, growth, and administration. So even though we're working together, we had kind of our own lanes for a lot of stuff.
That's wonderful. I know. And what's so crazy is that, most people's marriages don't even last 25 years. And you've been married for 27 years and owned a company for 25 years. So do you have any, tell us about that experience and any kind of tips working together as partners for so long?
Well, you start.
Yeah. having our own offices and our own places to go. So I think when our first office on Aurora Avenue was a pretty small space. So we were just, right next to each other all day. And that led to, some tensions at times, especially when we're trying to grow the company and things are already stressful. So, but yeah, we've learned to adapt.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is practicing, like, giving people a pass and kind of realizing when what's the environment where the other person is going to freak out, and then like give them a pass for that. Like, so that you can kind of laugh about it later, or at least not do any damage. Like for us both setting an event together is usually stressful because we both get very stressed, and I have the specific way I want the live stream set up, and don't bother me because this is more important, and Dave's focusing on the rest of it, and so we're stepping on each other's toes. But if we can step back and recognize that that's how we are in those situations and basically give each other a mulligan for that, then it makes the rest of the day, week, month a lot smoother for that. So it's a little bit about learning each other's idiosyncrasies and being able to have a sense of humor about it later, or at least wait until later to talk about what could have gone better. Because if we do it right in that moment, it's not going to go well.
That's wonderful. That's such good advice for anyone that has a partnership, whether, it's in business or in life. That's really good. So I'd like to rewind a little bit and talk about, how Live Oak AV has grown over your 25 years. Talk to us about, how you've grown as a company, with employees, with your services.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of different phases in the company. I think, when we started out, because I came from the hotel background, I worked at the Westin Hotel, and I, when I started the company, I expected, to be going down that route, to, do a lot of hotel AV and conferences and conventions. And the way it really panned out is we, for some reason, we picked up a lot of restaurant clients and a lot of smaller hotels. We were doing a lot of, this is in early 2000s, so there's a lot of pharmaceutical meetings at Canlis or Daniels, or, that was a good portion of our business. 10 years, it sort of evolved. We picked up a few more hotels. We started doing more, nonprofit fundraisings for schools and nonprofit organizations. And we slowly picked up different clients along the way. And then the pandemic hit and all that went away. And then we transitioned to do, we built the studio. We started doing, live streams. And we learned, Jennifer took the lead on that, of learning broadcast and live streaming. And from there, it enabled us, even though it was a terrible time and we were struggling to get by, we also established a lot of new business and new clients. And we come out of it stronger.
Yeah, in the beginning, we really specialized in that smaller hotel, smaller locations. So they're big enough to have an event, but not big enough to maybe have their own staff or their own gear for it. And so we really functioned as their in-house team. They'd pick up the phone, run up the bat signal, tell us what they needed. We'd bring it out there, set it up, so the client pick it up later. And early on, we actually connected with the University of Washington. And so the one constant through our entire evolution has been University of Washington, like medical conferences, both for nursing and for continuing medical education. So that's been a really interesting thing to do and a real constant throughout the history of our company. And things continued to grow in that way up until COVID. All of our events were live. We very rarely even sent something to a Zoom call. The way we all gathered was in person. And so that's how we would hire people, people who knew how to run cables and, tape down things and that live environment. And then COVID hits. And first of all, it's illegal to gather. So, that's our entire business segment is gone. And then it was this huge tectonic shift in our industry. Okay, how do we gather? Why do we gather? Who do we want to gather with, and who were we leaving out? And so as an industry, while all of this is happening, it led to such a different service model. It led to different types of people we were hiring. All of a sudden now I'm looking for employees who have streamed to Twitch. And, maybe they're like gaming and stuff, because these are the types of people that I can train up to do live streaming. And never in my million years had I thought that would be a demographic that I was looking for, to bring on site. And so within all of that, now when we do events, it's really across so many different segments. And it's more about what do you need to do before it's about who we're serving. Because one week we might live stream a Rotary meeting, and the next day it's an employee quarterly meeting. And then, it's a groundbreaking ceremony for a project in person. So the scope of it, we tell people when they work with us, if you like novelty every day within the constraints of having a regular paycheck, this is the place for you, because every day is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of our themes during COVID was throw it at us, we'll figure it out.
That's so good though, as far as a business, strategy, especially when you're in that uncertain time. That's just amazing that you all were able to figure that out.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Who was it that started? Was it Andrew that started with us? And like his first show was at Pike Place Market, where we had a live stream there. And then we did the Alki Arts Festival. So, I think he got to do a lot of fun events on his first week there with us.
He said he was calling us every day going like, guess where I'm at today?
Oh, yeah.
It was just this.
Oh, yeah. I think we went to Macklemore's house, and it's.
Yeah, it was just crazy. So, and some weeks are a little less exciting, but it's always something different.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, the other thing I heard you say was talking about, really who are we serving? And that's what I love about your company and your mission of like amplifying your community. And I think that change from thinking about, not just the event, but who you're serving and amplifying that out is just really prevalent in what you all do.
Yeah. Yeah. One of there are several driving factors during COVID, of course, keeping the lights on was a big one. But in one of my previous jobs that I had, it was in nonprofit fundraising. So as I was looking at these events canceling, my thought is like, okay, those fundraisers are sometimes 50% of a nonprofit's entire annual budget. So if they don't have their fundraiser, what are they going to do? Because these services are still needed, if not more, during the pandemic, but they're going to be stuck, and how do we help them raise that money? And how do we help them stay alive as well? And so that was a lot of why we did it was, we'd been working with these nonprofits for 10 or 12 years, and to suddenly look at them and think about them having to close their doors or not being able to raise the funds, like that wasn't okay. So that was a big motivation behind a lot of what we did too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, well, talking about events and nonprofit events and all the different events you've done, what are some of the most unforgettable ones that you've been to?
Unforgettable good or unforgettable?
You get to choose.
I was sitting in the office one day and Dave was on the phone with a client, and it was a UW conference, and he hangs up and he says, so they asked me how I felt about cadavers. And the context was, it was a sinus surgery practicum that they needed AV support for. And, they practice on scientifically donated bodies. And Dave was in the room. I'm like, well, we haven't been asked that before.
It was cadaver heads, because they're doing a sinus and sleep surgery practical symposium. So they were doing surgery on cadaver heads, and I was the cameraman. So
That is wild.
It was interesting, yes.
Yeah. Just as an aside, there's a running joke that if you're ever playing trivia, put the AV person on your team, because they literally sat through a conference on every subject known to man. So if that comes up. we've had some pretty interesting things. I mean, everything from what we thought was cool at the time that kind of turned out interesting. Like we did the christening ceremony for the Big Bertha drill that tunneled through the viaduct, which was really cool when it started. But then as the project kept getting delayed, people got more and more upset about Big Bertha. And so it's like, maybe we don't say that we did the ceremony for that. We've had people come to us and say, it was a tugboat company. And apparently when you launch a new tugboat, there is a priest on the tugboat giving a dedication ceremony. But the tugboats are out in the bay. And so they needed a way to shoot the sound back from the tugboat to the dock so that everybody could hear the christening ceremony. So they brought us in to do that, and we used paddles. So the priest was on the boat christening, and we were shooting the sound back to the dock so everybody could hear the christening ceremony. So
yeah, that was one. It's like, well, let's give it a test and see, because you can add paddle antennas to your wireless receivers. It extends the range, but I still didn't know how far are you going out in the tugboat. We'll see how far you can go before it cuts out. So, but yeah, it worked pretty well.
Yeah, we had the same thing. We were called by the Seattle Reign, the women's soccer team. The last year they were in Memorial Stadium. The sound system in that stadium, which is currently being rebuilt, is pretty antiquated, and it was not transmitting from the field back up to the sound booth. And so nobody could hear the national anthem being sung. So they brought us in to do that. So we projected sound from the stadium, and they're like, well, since you're in the booth, can you also run the scoreboard for us? So for a whole season, we ran the scoreboard for the Seattle Reign on their home games.
Oh, I did not know that. That's really fun.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
We did some crazy things during COVID, live streaming from places.
So yeah, the rock station KSW does a live day where they feature just local artists, and they just do live performances all day. They usually did it from Emerald Queen Casino, but this year, I think it was, what year was it, 21?
Yeah, and so the casino couldn't open yet. Like their amphitheater, couldn't open. So they were looking for a different location.
Yeah, so we did it. Yeah, from our live stream studio, we did this. We had all day. We had probably about 12 different bands, local bands, come through and do performances. So it was fun, wrangling musicians all day.
Yeah, and we had the radio personalities in the room as well, and they were doing the announcements in between. And then we were sending the audio and video signals back to the radio station, and they were mixing it all from there.
Yeah, they were doing live commercial reads, right from our studio. It's pretty fun.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite live streams, it was for a nonprofit that does spay and neuter services for feral cats up in Linwood. And they couldn't host their own event, obviously. And so they had asked us, hey, can we live stream from the surgery clinic? Because, this is why we gather every year, and people pay for this, but they've never seen it because it's this really small room. And we're like, sure. And so we went there and did a site visit and probably set up the world's smallest studio. And a couple weeks before, the client reached out and she's like, so we wanted to know if we could have kitten cam. And I'm like, if we don't have kitten cam, I have to drop you as a client. Like, this is the best idea I've ever heard in my life. And so what they did was they partnered with one of their adoption agencies, and we set up this giant kitten playpen in the lobby. And then we ran a camera to it. And so like during the preview of the event, you saw these kittens running around, and there was a little adoption link and stuff. And then the way they constructed it was during the event, if someone donated $1,000, they won 10 seconds of kitten cam. And so so Sasha Summer-Kusino was the auctioneer. So she's in the surgery clinic, and she's like, whoa, we've got $1,000 donor. Let's cut to kitten cam. And so I would cut to kitten cam, and we'd watch them for a little bit and bring it back. But what was funny is the longer the event went on, the more kittens made it from the playpen to the studio. So by the time the live stream was done, there were just kittens everywhere. Everybody was holding kittens. It's like, yes, we've made it. We have kittens on the internet. We're a real company now.
That is so cute. You guys really have done it all, like such a range of different events. It's really amazing to hear about. Kind of looking into the future of Live Oak AV, what do you see for the next years ahead after you've reached this 25-year milestone?
Hopefully more stability going forward. These past few years have been, up and down and crazy. I mean, after COVID, we've grown quite a bit. So I think, right now we have a pretty good crew, the biggest crew we've had in a while. And so I think just hopefully more slower, steady growth and not just boom or bust.
Yeah, hopefully there's, no more COVID type situations. I've thought a lot about this year because, as we get older and we look at, retiring or stepping out of the day to day, like what does that look like? And so I've spent some time looking around at the companies I respect or the companies that I feel are good community members. And the common denominator in all of those were the legacy generational companies. So your Nordstrom, and it gets passed down to the family, that generational pride, that community pride, it lasts for, 50 years, 70 years. And so what I would love to see is that we become one of those companies. We become a fabric of Seattle, not just today, not just 25 years ago, but another 75 years in the future, that we continue to pass down these values and we're a good place to work and we do great things with our community and we're a place where employees can really grow and to kind of be that sort of institution that continues like that.
Yeah, just on that, I mean, I feel like this past year especially, we spent a lot of time kind of defining our core values as a company and then defining roles for everybody in the company. She set up interviews with all of our employees so she could sit down, talk to them about, how things are going, where they want to go within the company. So they feel like they're not stuck in a certain role, that there's growth potential within the company. And I think that's been instrumental this past year, especially just, having that conversation with people and defining roles and defining our company values.
It's a really interesting experience because also it's okay if people don't want to work here the rest of their life. Like maybe they want to be here for 5 years and learn the things and then they want to explore, performing or some other thing. And that's okay too. And making sure that we have a place and a path for those employees as well as for employees who are like, yeah, someday I'm going to take your job. Great. How do I train you up to do that? So it was a really, really interesting exercise.
That's beautiful. It's really cool. I love that, being within the fabric of the Seattle community. And I think you already are. And so just continuing that journey and that mission. So gosh, well, it's so wonderful to talk to both of you about your journey throughout the years. Thank you for sharing that. And just want to say congratulations on 25 years and here's to hopefully 75 more years.
I'll have to let Zachary, tell us if that actually happened. We may be on the next plane at that point.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.